So, ladies and gentlemen, as of a few weeks ago, we have reached the 1 year anniversary of the beef heard around the world. One of the biggest events slash sagas slash soap operas slash telenovelas. So you see where I'm going with this. We are 1 year removed from arguably the biggest event in hip hop history, but at the very least, one of the three biggest events to happen in the history of hip hop, which is the beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, finally saw its, I guess you could say, its climax and its ending, because we all know that there was tension between these two for pretty much their entire careers for the most part, or at least for the better part of 15 years. It's been a very long time, but I almost wanted to call it a battle royale, because low-key, even though we focus so much on Drake and Kendrick, other people were roped into this, whether it be J. Cole, Future, Metro Boomin, The Game, like so many other people, as well as, social media personalities and whatnot. Many people getting on podcasts crying over this situation or whatever. And many people are talking about this, revisiting it, as they should, because this is an important moment in the history of the genre. I wanted to also jump in and talk about three major takeaways that I took from the beef and how it played out. There's hundreds of takeaways you could have taken from the beef, but as far as three that I thought would be interesting to talk about, and three that I don't think many people are going to talk about, I wanted to throw it out there. The first takeaway is that Drake has a very predictable strategy when it comes to battling people. And I'm sure many of you probably noticed this as well. It's a very predictable strategy. His number one go-to is to bring up whatever girlfriend or fiance his opponent, his enemy is dealing with, to bring her up into the situation, which Drake's not the first rapper to do something like that. But I think making that your only strategy is a very short-sighted idea, very bad move, mainly because depending on who you're beefing with, it could turn the crowd against you, and that's exactly what happened with both Pusha T and Kendrick. It worked when he used it against Tyga and Meek Mill, but those are different situations. Those were lesser tier lyricists. No offense to them, because I still think they have dope songs too in their own right. But as we all remember, when Drake dissed Tyga, he said, "Hey, you should act your age and not your girl age." When Drake dissed Meek Mill, of course, the infamous line saying, "Hey, shout out to all my boss bitches, wife and ninjas, whatever." Nah, but shout out to all my boss bitches, wife and niggas. And so that worked in those moments, but he leaned on that angle again, obviously with Pusha T, and of course with Kendrick, where he brought up Kendrick's girlfriend's name, his baby mama's name, Whitney or whatever. And again, I'm not saying it's the worst strategy ever, because it can work. Rappers have done this many, many times. But I think it's an insufficient method, and it doesn't work when you're using it against somebody like Kendrick, who a lot of people in the general public, they like him. He has a lot of good PR over the past decade. Again, none of us know him as a person. He could be a bad person, but we don't know. As far as we know, he's a cool dude. Whereas on the flip side, Drake, you have some catchy songs. I like Drake's music, but there's also a lot of reasons why people understandably would not like Drake. So again, I just don't think it was a good method, and it's very predictable. And it also proves that Drake's win against Meek Mill may have been a fluke, because it seems almost as if he's more so a one-trick pony when it comes to how he approaches battling. And when he went up against more complex lyricists, that trick didn't work the same. Not to say it couldn't have worked, but Drake and or his ghostwriters just weren't clever enough, man. I just don't think they planned it out as well as they could have or should have, but it is what it is. It's neither here nor there. The second takeaway that I took from the whole beef is that J. Cole is a coward. Yes, you heard me right. J. Cole is a coward. Now, quick disclaimer. I like all of these artists. Obviously, I like their music, whether it be Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole, all these people, but I still want to call a spade a spade. And J. Cole came out looking like a major coward in this situation. I don't like how he handled this situation at all. Like if you weren't prepared to go all out, just stay out the way. Like there's no excuse for him to put out that mediocre response that he put out just to delete it and then apologize on stage 2 days later. That was absolutely ridiculous, completely unnecessary, very weird. It just doesn't make sense. It's not like the song Like That came out and then J. Cole uploaded a response 5 hours later. It's like, bro, like more than enough time passed to where you could have take thought it through, slept on it, really think hard about, like, do you really want to do this? And if you didn't really want to do it, just leave it alone. Because to put out a mid song like 7 Minute Drill, like even when you listen to 7 Minute Drill, J. Cole had no conviction on that song. He just lacked all confidence, which is sad because J. Cole is typically the type of rapper who is constantly talking about how in his songs he's constantly talking about how if he was to face a rapper, he would do X, Y, and Z. And now when you hear him say those things, it doesn't hit the same in my opinion. I think he's talented enough to where he could, but to go out the way he went out in that situation, coming out half-heartedly, like I remember, well, I don't remember, but way back in the day, like in the 80s or whatever, I believe it was Big Daddy Kane that had the song Ain't No Half Steppin' or whatever. Like when J. Cole's approach to this whole battle, it felt like he was half-heartedly trying to get into it, but then he was too scared, so he had one foot in, one foot out. It was very confusing. I didn't like it. And it's one thing to put the diss track out and then apologize. Okay, fine. People wanted to forgive him. But to then double back like a few months later, making a song where you're saying, oh, I wouldn't have lost. It's not about that. I wasn't gonna lose. It's just I didn't want to lose my friend. It's like, bro, what are you talking about, bro? Like this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, just stay over it. Like, it just came off. His whole approach to the situation came off very passive aggressive, very indecisive. He seemed conflicted, honestly, but that's neither here nor there. And also, it just seemed like he tried to save face, but whatever. Either way, I still like J. Cole's music. I still like all these guys' music, but you do kind of look at them a little differently based on how they handle the situation. The third and most important thing that I took away from this whole epic battle between Kendrick Lamar and Drake is that hip hop fans, only care about lyrics when there's drama involved. Yes, you heard me right. You heard me right. I told y'all in previous videos, I got smoke for the hip hop audience for the rest of the year, because so often the hip hop audience does not want to look in the mirror. So often. Like as somebody who also makes music, I'm an artist. I forgot to mention my name is Mfasis. I put out a few albums. And obviously, I love lyricism and lyrical artists. But it annoys me seeing hip-hop fans pretend, year in and year out, pretend like they care so much about lyrics and all of this and that, and they complain about the music that's out and saying it's so bad. But then they never support artists who actually put more effort into their lyrics. But the one time they do, the one time you see people obsessively reading lyrics and going on all these websites that have lyrical breakdowns and watching 60-minute breakdowns of different songs from some of these YouTubers, it's only related to drama. And this isn't me just sounding crazy saying it. There's been several rappers who have said this, not just during this beef, but even years beforehand. One person was Denzel Curry, the rapper out of Miami, Denzel Curry. In the midst of that battle between Kendrick and Drake, he actually mentioned this same thing when he said, hey, it took the two biggest rappers on the planet to get into a beef with each other and put out diss tracks for fans who actually care about lyrics. And if you think I'm crazy and I'm not being fair, understand even Kendrick Lamar has said this himself. Kendrick Lamar has literally gotten on songs where he has said, hey, if people really cared about lyrics, then Killer Mike would be platinum. And not just Kendrick, but many other artists have said similar things. I forgot what song it was, but I remember years ago, Jay-Z had a song where he said, "Hey, if people really cared about lyricism, then lyrically I would have been like Talib Kweli." Everybody knows that hip hop fans don't actually care about lyrics like that, but many of them, not all of them, of course, but many of them want to pretend like they do. And the only time you see such a rush, such an intensity when it comes to people studying and analyzing and over analyzing and speculating over lyrics, it was in the midst of essentially a smear campaign between two 30-something-year-old rappers. Not that 30-something is old. That's still young in the grand scheme of life, but two veteran rappers who have been making music for like 20 years. That's what it took for hip hop fans to really care about lyrics again. But I don't mean to get on a soapbox because it's not that deep. Either way, let me know, what did you